I want to introduce our guest speaker, who we've had for the past several years, who is absolutely the most informative financial aid person I've ever met. He has been in financial aid since 1989. He previously worked at Middlesex County College, where he served as the Associate Director of Financial Aid as well as the first-year coordinator. Currently, he is the Executive Director of Financial Aid and Executive Director of Tutoring and the Center for Student Success at TCNJ. He is active in New Jersey, in the New Jersey Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, where he is the president. This is Mr. Will Kassane, and we welcome him. I want to have Ms. Kretz, one of our guidance counselors, go over what's in your packet before Mr. Kassane starts, just for a moment. But welcome, Mr. Kassane. We're so happy to have you with us.
Hi, good evening. So you all received the packet when you came in, and I'm just going to go over a few things that are in it. There is the back, there's some comparison worksheets, cost of attendance versus award packages. So you have a worksheet when you're making your financial plans and college choices. An eight-step flyer to apply for federal and state student aid. So that's good, a nice checklist, so you know like what to do and when to do it. New Jersey Stars 1 and 2 info guides. We talked a little bit about that last week at senior night, but afterwards you can come up and talk to us about what New Jersey Stars is. And the New Jersey Tuition Aid Grant info guide, a federal student loan pamphlet, and a federal student loan for the basic for students. So there's one about becoming a responsible borrower and one about the basics for students. So they understand what the student loan process is and how to be responsible about being a student borrower. There's a guide for federal student aid booklet, and this booklet says 2016-2017, but this is what was said. So you're looking at for 2017-2018 freshman year, if you're a senior this year, freshman in college. And then finally, the blue piece of paper that we handed you was our evaluation form, and it would be great if you could fill it out. It helps us as we move on in the next years with these information nights. So with that, I will give the microphone, and here he is.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for having me here tonight. So I want to start off with this first. I just want to let you know and give you a warning that I am going to overwhelm you tonight. I'm going to be throwing out a lot of information to you. Even though this is a nice, basic financial aid presentation, it's still a lot of information to digest. And it's normal for you to maybe leave here tonight and go, oh my goodness, what did we just lay on us, okay? So just so you know, the presentations will be posted on the school's website. So you can always go back and refer to it. You know, hopefully what I'm hoping that you get out of tonight, besides just some nice basic information, is for you to be able to say, as you're filling out those forms, as you're applying, as you're receiving award letters, hopefully in the back of your mind something will stick and you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember when Will talked about this as you were in high school. So, and again, you'll have that presentation in the school's website so you can refer to it, all right? Second thing is, the way I like to do my presentations is, if you have a question, as the slide is up on the board or whatever we want to call this thing, raise your hand. Let's deal with the issue, you know, as it's hot. Also, don't be afraid to ask any questions. That's what we're here for. We're here to learn. No question is silly or dumb or whatever. Also, perhaps a question that you are daring enough to ask. The person next to you has been wanting to ask, but they're afraid to ask, all right? So don't be shy. You know, I'm not going to bite your head off or anything, all right? It's all good information that we're going to cover here. And then also what I usually like to do is afterwards, I like to hang out for a little bit. So in case you have a particular situation or something private you don't want to air out your dirty laundry in front of everybody, I can hang out afterwards and you can ask me one-on-one. All right? So with that, we'll get started. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover the types and sources of aid, the application process, the financial aid package, and then some other information for you which is helpful to you. All right? But before we start, I want to make you aware of this. every school, by law, federal government requires that every school have what's called a net price calculator. Some schools call it the college affordability estimator, college affordability calculator, award calculator. They may have different names, but they're all basically the same thing. It's called a net price calculator. And what it does is it's basically a 5 to 15 minute mini FAFSA that you can complete. Put in some core information about you, your household, your expenses, and it tells you the average grants, scholarships, loans that they're giving their freshman students when they come in. Okay, first time, full-time freshmen. So, when you have it narrowed down to maybe a few colleges at hand that your sons and daughters are thinking of going to, you can usually go to the admissions websites, or in our, at TCNJ, it's located in the financial aid website. It's called the VSA calculator on our end. And what you can do is you can go to this, and again, fill out something that might take you 5, 10, 15 minutes, and at least you get some kind of estimates of, this school is very generous with their aid, or the school is very chintzy with their aid. And perhaps that can begin to kind of form your decision as to which schools you want to start paying more attention to when you start receiving those aid packages. Okay? So again, by law, it's required that each school have it. It may have a different name, but I highly recommend that you hunt it out and you do use it when you're considering those last few college options. All right? So section 1, I like this slide because it covers a lot of nice information. So for example, you see on the left-hand side the sources of aid. Federal government, state of New Jersey, college or university, and outside organizations. When you complete the FAFSA, we're going to go over the applications in the next section. When you complete the FAFSA, that information on the FAFSA is going to all the entities you see on the left. So that FAFSA is going to the federal government for determination and calculation. That FAFSA is being sent to the state government for determination of eligibility and calculation. That FAFSA information is going to the college or university that your sons and daughters have applied to and been admitted. Okay? The only one that it doesn't go to automatically is the outside organizations. Some outside organizations do not require the FAFSA. Some, and usually these are for scholarships, where you're applying, Coca-Cola scholarship, AT&T, things like that. Some of them may require the FAFSA results. So they may say, okay, when you're applying for this scholarship, we still need you to send us, the receipt from the FAFSA. Do automatically. You don't have to do anything. Now, one size fits all, you fill out one form and boom, it's set. The fourth one, if you're applying for private scholarships, you may require that FAFSA data. All right? Now, federal. When that FAFSA information is going to the federal government, you are being considered for all the types of financial aid you see on the right-hand side. They're evaluating you for federal eligibility for grants, scholarships, student loans, and employment opportunities through the Federal Work Study Program. Okay? State of New Jersey receives that information. They're evaluating you for eligibility for grants, scholarships, loans, even though you need a separate application to apply for the loan, but you need that FAFSA if you want to apply for any state loans. The only thing they don't have are employment opportunities. Okay, State of New Jersey does not offer employment opportunities as part of financial aid. College or university. College or university usually, in a few cases, grants. Most of the time is for scholarships, institutional scholarships. In some instances, loans, like if the college has private loans that they lend out. We don't lend out money, but some colleges do, and still require that FAFSA. And employment opportunities. Believe it or not, my bigger budget, my college work study budget is about $167,000 a year for students. But my non-college work study budget is over $1 million. So we actually give out more institutional employment in non-work study jobs than we do work study jobs. Okay, but usually the FAFSA and work study is the impetus or what gets you started in college employment. Okay? Outside organizations, again, if they require that FAFSA, usually in those cases it's for scholarships. Okay? So real simple. All right, so nice slide. FAFSA information is going to those sources. They're evaluating you for the different types of aid. Some examples of it. And these are all need-based aid programs, which when you complete the FAFSA, your eligibility is automatically calculated whether you qualify or whether you don't. Okay? So just giving you some examples. Pell Grant 16-17, the highest Pell Grant right now is about $5,815 for the year. It's slated to go up percentage points, going to go up to 59.20 for 17-18 your sons and daughters are freshmen in college. SEOG stands for Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, and those are funds that the federal government gives each college or university, and then they spend those money on financial aid recipients. So the federal government requires the FAFSA for that. They give the money to the college, and then the college may impose additional criteria or restrictions on it, like an early application deadline or a certain type of need, things like that. But again, it's additional funds that you may be eligible for. Those awards range from anywhere from, I think, $200 per year to about $4,000 that you see there. Teach Grant, again, another federal program. It's up to $37.28 right now for this year. We don't know what's going to happen next year. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. Again, if you're thinking of being a teacher, fill out your FAFSA, you may qualify for this, and when you go to the college, and there's certain restrictions, like you have to teach, make a commitment to teach for a certain number of years after you graduate, and things like that. Okay, so just some examples of federal programs available in their amounts. State programs. And the counselor mentioned before that you have information about the TAG program, tuition aid grant, about the NJ STARS program. So here's some of the state programs that, again, by completing that FAFSA, you're automatically applying for eligibility for. TAG stands for Tuition Aid Grant. It's administered by the state of New Jersey by HESA, Higher Education Student Assistance Authority. Again, by filling out that FAFSA, you're automatically being considered for it. Full-time TAG right now ranges from $584 per year to as high as $12,196 if you go into an independent college or university in New Jersey. Part-time TAG is only applicable if your sons and daughters are going to a community college. In other words, if you're going to a four-year school, you have to be a full-time student to get the TAG. Part-time students can receive TAG at a community college. EOF, that is a program that in addition to needing to complete the FAFSA, you have to meet certain poverty guidelines, certain income requirements in addition to the FAFSA. So it's kind of like a program that you apply for separately for each college and university. If you have more questions about that or you think you qualify, you can talk about that a little bit later. STARS and STARS 2. STARS, you graduate top 15% of your class, you can go to community college for free for 2.5 years, then you can transfer to a four-year school and you can receive $2,500 for your junior year and for your senior year. Again, FAFSA required, Governor's Urban Scholarship, that's automatically determined by the state. If you qualify, you have to graduate the top percentage of your high school and live in a certain region to qualify for that. And then NJ Gives, that's more of a vocational, if you're thinking of going like HVAC, plumbing, things like that. And for that, what I recommend is if you're thinking of going into one of those careers, that you go to the state website, which I'm going to give you later, so you can research more information in terms of how to qualify for that. So some state programs available to you. Additional types of aid. Here we get into loans for students and payment plans. So one of the things that's often overlooked by families, especially when you're making those decisions about going to a four-year school, whether it's a state school like mine that costs about $26,000 for the year for everything, college, room tuition, meal plans, things like that, or an independent college, which could be $50,000, $60,000 a year, are payment plans. A lot of colleges offer payment plans to assist you with that bill. Sometimes they're interest-free payment plans, you pay monthly. I can tell you how the payment plan at TCNJ works. So let's say, after your financial aid has come in, after you've decided, how much you're going to borrow, you still have a hole. You're still going to owe $6,000 for the year. The way it works is term bills are due in August, and usually in January. So we require, all right, time to write out that check for $5,000 or $6,000, and some families just can't do that. So what the college does is, you can sign up for a 5-month payment plan or a 10-month payment plan. And what we'll do is, instead of having to pay out that $6,000, we'll say, okay, sign a contract for a payment plan, and it might cost you $25 to sign that contract. It's interest-free, it's not a loan. And then they'll say when you put that deposit down, let's say it's $600 for the $6,000, because you're dividing it into 10 payments, the college will automatically credit your son's account to $6,000. So they can start their school, they have no worries, as long as you just make your monthly payments. Okay, so at least for cash flow purposes, you can kind of spread things out. Now, a lot of families sometimes don't realize that colleges and universities offer that service. Okay? Loans, 1617 federal direct undergraduate direct loans. Now, these are loans that are in the student's name. By the student completing the FAFSA, they are automatically eligible for these loans. Okay? These are loans that have no credit check. These are loans that do not have to begin to be repaid until after they graduate from college. Okay? If they qualify for a subsidized loan, okay, which the FAFSA will determine whether you qualify for one or both or whatever. The subsidized principal is deferred while they're in school. The interest is paid by the government while they're in school. So you don't have to worry about anything about that loan until they're done. Unsubsidized principal is deferred. Interest is due while they're in school. They can capitalize that interest, or they can just make interest-only payments while they're in school. Okay? You can make $1 million a year. Your son and daughter can fill out the FAFSA, they will automatically qualify for a loan. Okay? $5,500 freshman amount, $6,500 sophomore amount, juniors and seniors $7,500 per year, and then there are cumulative limits. Whether you're dependent, independent, if you're a graduate student, those amounts will vary. Okay? Now notice the pattern here, folks. PAL, the federal programs, the state programs, payment plans, loans. The reason for that is guess what? No longer, unless you're going to community college, no longer can one aid program cover the entire cost of your year in college. So basically what you're doing when you're filling out this application and it's getting sent to all these sources and you're applying for all these different types of aid is you're hoping to cobble enough financial aid from all these different sources to cover the entire year of school for your student. Okay? So that's why you have the different options. All right? Types of aid, loans for students and parents, because we're not going to leave the parents out of it. Okay? State has that NG class loan program. So again, filling out the FAFSA, goes to the state of New Jersey, student may be eligible for a state loan. There's a separate application for it. They have different types of loans, fixed, variable, repayment options, different interest rates, as you can see there, from 4.48 to 7.92. They can borrow to the cost of attendance, so if it costs $30,000 to go there and the student wants to borrow that much, they can borrow that. Okay? The only caveat here is now we start getting into loans that are credit-based. So usually what happens with the state of New Jersey for the NJ class loan program is they make the student apply for the loan. Fill out the FAFSA and they apply for the loan. Most 17, 18-year-olds have no credit, so they're going to get rejected. And then the state says, find a cosigner. Whether it's a parent, relative, friend, whatever, benefactor, whatever. Okay? So the student is still the primary borrower. So they are the ones who are responsible to repay that loan when they graduate, but then the state also has that cosigner on the hook. So you have to be careful. But again, it's an option that is available for students when aid administrators are packaging students and they're talking to families about how to meet that cost of attendance if you have a shortfall. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So good question. Are New Jersey loans available if you go out of state? Yes. The grant money from New Jersey, you must be a New Jersey resident attending a New Jersey institution. So that's the tie there. You have to meet both of those conditions. For the New Jersey loan, you can be a New Jersey resident studying outside at any other college or institution outside of New Jersey, or even you could be an out-of-state resident also attending a New Jersey school. So as long as there's a New Jersey tie, you can borrow on those loans. So the loans are a lot more lenient than they are with the grant. The grant they want to reserve for New Jersey residents staying in New Jersey. Yes, sir?
You pay back once you graduate?
Absolutely. And with the NJ class loan, there's different terms. Like with the federal loans is after you graduate. With these, you could say, well, I'm going to pay when I graduate. But if you wanted to, you could say, you know what, no, I'm going to take one that's a lower interest rate and start paying it while I'm in school. Or I want the one that has lower interest rate because I'm going to pay just interest while I'm in school. So they have different options available for this. So there is a lot more flexibility in that. Okay, Plus loan. Plus loan stands for Parent Loan for Undergraduate Student. Now that's a loan that only the parents can borrow on behalf of the student. Okay. Believe it or not, sometimes we have parents that are like, I don't want my son and daughter to go into debt. I want to borrow for them, so they can use this option. Usually they say, well, I want Johnny to borrow, but then I'll fill in the difference, But this is an option where the parent can borrow in the student's name, okay? It is a federal loan, again, it is a credit loan. Usually on this one, repayment begins 60 days from when you borrow it. So now we start into even more restrictions with this type of loan, okay? Interest varies. On this one, you have between 10 and 25 years to pay it off. Okay, so it affords you some flexibility in terms of the monthly payments, depending on how far you want to stretch it out. But again, it's just another tool in the arsenal, okay, to help out. And then, as always, there are private educational loans like South Bay, Wells Fargo, PNC. And the reason we put these up, and obviously we can't discriminate against, these lenders also, is because sometimes when we're meeting with parents, we have a parent, hey, I have a general contracting business, or I have a landscaping business, or I have a pizza shop, whatever. And I have a relationship with Wells Fargo. They happen to be my bank. They have my mortgage, they have my line of credit, things like that. And we tell parents, well, look, my federal program is at 6, and my state loan program is at 4. And sometimes the parents go, let me go talk to, Joe over at Wells Fargo, because I know him. And then Joe says, we can lend you, money for 2%. You see? So then we say, take advantage of the Wells Fargo loan, because you're going to get better terms because you already have a relationship with them. Okay? Another thing, even though I don't mention it here, is sometimes we'll meet with parents and we'll say, well, do you have equity in your home? Perhaps a home equity line of credit, since interest rate is so cheap right now and it's tax deductible, is a better option for you. You see? So again, it's just more things that as we're cobbling those packages together and then families come to us for help, we can kind of offer them options and say, these are options. You investigate which one fits your budget and your lifestyle best, but at least there are options available to you to research, okay? Now, so everything that you saw before, based on the FAFSA, and is all need-based. Depending on your income, your situation, determinations are going to be automatically made. I'm going to go over that in the aid packages. This is really the area where you have the most flexibility, okay? Because now we start getting into merit scholarship or grant land, all right? So what do I mean by that? And look, you can see some of the factors here. Some of the factors that may influence institutional and private scholarships. Automatically, you see obviously academics, SAT, AP courses, all the items you see on the left, all academic, okay? Items on the right, start getting a little bit more selective. Athletic ability, if you're going to a D1, D2 school, those scholarships, geographic diversity, legacy, if your child is an alumni, maybe they want to attract you to that school. Talent, we have plenty of musicians and artists who come to TCNJ and get those scholarships. Gender, ethnicity, and class rank. What happens with these is, though, that it's more subjective because these decisions are being made by the admissions officers when they are bringing their class in. Also, these factors could change from year to year, okay? So I'll use some standard stereotypes. Admissions is bringing their class in. People are applying. They're applying for biology, engineering, whatever majors. Admissions is noticing, we have a lot of men in the engineering program. We need to attract some females into that program. So we've got some applicants, strong applicants. They've been admitted. You see that they're not taking our bait. So they may say, you know what? Let's increase the female engineer merit scholarship and offer them $9,000. As opposed to the men, we're offering them $7,000 because we're getting plenty of them. To entice some of those ladies to come study engineering at TCNJ. You see? They may say, you know what? Whether it's gender or ethnic diversity. They say, you know, we're getting a lot of ex-applicants for this class. We need to get some diversity in here. Let's start offering other candidates additional funding to entice them to come. Okay? And again, these things change from year to year. 1 year, they may be like, you know what? Our SATs are down. We need to get stronger SAT candidates in here. So we'll say, anybody who scored a 1340 and above, they're going to get stronger scholarships because we're having an issue in that area. We want to improve our profile, okay? So many factors could influence this, and these are all decisions that are made by admissions offices as they're reviewing applications and making their decisions as to whether your sons and daughters are going to be accepted at that school. But let's go to the flip side, financial aid side, okay? So again, I'll give you an example of what happens at TCNJ. Admissions is making their merit-based determinations. We'll give these students 7,000, we'll give these students 9,000, we'll give these students 3,000, whatever, okay? After they made their decisions, they send us in financial aid that list of merit candidates. We have our need-based criteria then for those candidates. And we say incomes between X and X are going to get 3,000. Incomes between X and X are going to get 5,000. Incomes between X and X are going to get 7,000. They start giving us the merits. We start comparing it with our need-based income guidelines. And then we say, boom, you hit on this income guidelines. We are going to supplement the merit with an additional $3,000 need-based scholarship. So let's say you were offered a $6,000 merit. You hit one of our income criteria for an additional need-based grant. We supplement it with another 5. Now your scholarship is for $11,000. Okay? You may be surprised at the income limits for those need-based decisions at colleges. Some people may think, we're making enough money, whatever. At some colleges, universities, you can be in the 6 figures and still qualify for a meal, depending on how they want to treat middle class families. See? So that's kind of like my little advertisement there that it's worth it to fill out the FAFSA, even if it's just for a loan, or because you never know what the need component is at that school for a need-based scholarship. If your sons and daughters are smart enough to get married, you see? So, because remember, they're tied together usually. All right? So just keep that in mind. Kind of like the area, the biggest gray area where you have the most flexibility is usually when you start getting into the institutional, merit and need-based scholarships. Okay? The applications. I'm going to go over 2 applications. The first one I'm going to go over is probably the least popular one. It's called the CSS profile, and then I'll go over the FAFSA in more detail. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that certain institutions may have additional institutional applications. These are kind of like the nationally known ones. So some schools may require both of these. Some schools may require only one. Some schools may require both of these and then an institutional application. So those are all things that you need to research when, again, you're making those college decisions. Which one do you require? FAFSA, CSS, both, institutional, what else do I have to fill out? Okay? Last thing you want to do is fill one out and meet that deadline and then not fill out the other one and not meet that deadline. You're like, ooh, I could have just missed out on money. Okay? So, the first one, CSS profile. Foreign to colleges organizations use the CSS profile. It is available October 1. It's always been available October 1. So there's no change in terms of that one. It's basically a FAFSA on steroids because it goes much more in depth into a family's finances. Usually schools that use the profile, use the profile are schools that have big endowments and they're looking to be very smart about how they spend those endowments on your sons and daughters, okay? So I'll give you an example. The FAFSA. FAFSA doesn't require any information about your primary home. You can have a home that's worth $1 million, it's paid for, you have $1 million worth of equity. FAFSA doesn't ask about that. The CSS profile does. Because that school may go, we expect you to apply on the home equity of your home. Okay? CSS profile, parents are divorced, not remarried. The FAFSA just asks information about your custodial parent. They don't care about your non-custodial parent, okay? CSS profile has a non-custodial profile, and they may require information about your mom and your dad if he's come off, been divorced, or even if he's remarried, okay? They want to look at the whole picture. Profile asks for information about whether you're paying for secondary tuition. They ask about assets that the FAFSA doesn't ask about, so it goes into much more detail. I think it even asks about, we're going to take this question in a while, you can even ask about the cars you drive and what payment you have on your cars, because obviously they're thinking, well, if we're going to invest a lot of money in the student and mom and dad just bought a $50,000 Mercedes-Benz, where are their priorities? So it goes into much more detail, but again, only few institutions use it. Currently, I think, besides TCNJ using it, we used it last year, the previous year, we're debating whether we're going to use it this year. I think maybe one other school uses it in New Jersey. I'm not sure which one that is. I don't know if it's Stevens, or JIT, but I think one other school uses it. So if you're going to stay in New Jersey, the chances are you won't have to fill it out. okay? And you should always check with college, university, your sons and daughters that you're going to see if they require the profile. Also, the FAFSA is free. This form costs money. It's $25 for the form and one college. Every additional college after that is $16. Okay. So again, you definitely want to check which colleges you require it, and you want to make sure that when you're completing this, you're sending it to the colleges that you're really seriously thinking of going to. Okay, because FAFSA doesn't care. I'll show you a slide in a little bit about that. Okay. Basically, you register, you complete the application, you make payment, and you submit. Website to apply for the profile. Website for that non-custodial profile. Your parents are divorced. Their customer service information. And again, you'll have these presentations on the website if you need to refer back to it. FAFSA. Free applications for federal student aid. This is probably what everybody will fill out. Okay. They get about 26, 27 million FAFSAs per year nationwide. So that's what everybody fills out. It's available October 1st, and that's brand new. It used to not be available. It was the first year it's available October 1. It used to be available January 1st. And, yeah, so we do this. Go into more detail about that. Obviously, to ensure maximum consideration, federal, state, institutional aid, you want to check each information from each school for required application materials, again, which form, see if they require additional forms or an additional institutional form, and application deadlines. We can't emphasize that enough, folks, all right? Each school may have their own deadlines. In some cases, it truly is the early bird gets the worm. You want to make sure you don't miss out on anything by not, filling out, meeting the deadline. What I usually recommend is, when you have it narrowed down to, you have it narrowed down to 10 colleges, go to each college, see what their deadlines are. Whichever one is the earliest deadline, make sure you apply to that date for the other 10 colleges, So just do that, but at least meet those deadlines. They really, truly are important, okay? Be sure to answer all optional questions on the FAFSA, like gender and driver's license to speed up processing. FAFSA does all these wonderful data matches, but it still has no data match for whether your son's a male or a female. All right, so you want to make sure you answer that question. Also, for New Jersey state questions, which we'll go into in a little bit, if your sons and daughters have a New Jersey driver's license, it helps speed up processing, believe it or not. So you want to make sure you include that. It doesn't mean that if they don't, it's not a big deal. They just put out a license, but it just helps their match a little better at the state of New Jersey. So obviously, if you have a New Jersey license, make sure you put that in, and it helps out. So again, let's get back to that October 1 thing. So FAFSA used to be available January 1st of every year. But what happened was, there were schools that had deadlines as early as February 15th. So, and the FAFSA required income from that year that just ended at December 31st. So I don't know about you guys, but usually I don't have my W-2s from my employer until about the end of January, okay? And I'm not even thinking about doing my taxes until maybe March. And I'm probably early, okay? So what was happening was FAFSA is available January 1st. Some schools had February 1, February 15th deadline. And you're scrambling, you're like, oh my God, it requires my income information for my tax returns, but I haven't even done that yet. So it gave an option to estimate that income information. So a lot of people just took their W-2s, they estimated all taxes, withheld, those are my taxes paid, boom, 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 and they send it in. And then the FAFSA, after April 15, would say, all right, you've done your taxes, now go back in and fix your FAFSA with your actual income information, okay? And usually, that created a lot of disparities. What you originally estimated was completely different from what your actual income was, or taxes, or things like that. And you may have received an aid package based on estimated info, and now that you've updated, that package changes significantly, okay? It was a flawed system, okay? It was a system, it worked as best as it could, but it was flawed. So the federal government finally got together and said, you know what, we need to change that. So they moved the FAFSA up 3 months. All right, so it's more time to apply. And they changed the income that's used for the FAFSA, and they now call it prior year income. So, I guess most of you are senior parents, right? Okay, so all the senior parents in your room, your sons and daughters are going to go to college during the 2017-2018 academic year. Start September of 2017. So in the past, January was 2017, the FAFSA was available, you scrambled to get all your info in, you got your aid packages, and if there were changes, whatever, you were scrambling for info, and you were using 2016 income. What they're going to do is now it's available October 1, the income that you're using is 2015 income. So the taxes that you did this April, for 2015, are the taxes that are going to be used for 2017-18. It's almost 2 years back. Yes?
Do you have to do a FAFSA every year?
Yes, you do. If you want to apply. You're not forced to do FAFSA. You don't have to fill out a FAFSA. But if you want to apply for financial aid, your income information may change every year. Therefore, you do your FAFSA. Okay?
Is that also for STARS?
Yes. For STAR students, you are required to do a FAFSA.
But every year?
Absolutely.
Because your rank wouldn't change.
No, your rank doesn't change, but eligibility for other aid may. And the way STARS works is they say, well, you qualify for the free tuition as long as you don't get any other state grants, because none gets deducted from them. So that's what they say, make sure you apply, because they want to say, well, you know, if you're getting paid for this kitty, why are we going to pay you for this other kitty? So it's just the state's way of trying to save money.
If you have multiple children in college at the same time, do you do one form or do you have to do one form per child?
You get a little ahead of me, but yes, each student files their own FAFSA. Even though it's the same parents' info, because the aid follows the student. Okay? And in some cases, let's say you have one child who was diligent, worked at McDonald's all summer and earned $7,000, and you had the other one that was more of a free spirit and said, I'm not going to work on it. I'm going to go to the beach. Well, your income is the same, but theirs isn't. So it could be different, you know, eligibility, because one earned money and one did not. But yeah.
Your own needs, say they do it.
Okay. Yes, the student has to do their own. Yeah. Yeah, and then the parent info would go to on each student's information. So the parents repeats, but each student needs to do their own FAFSA. Each student may go to a different school. Each school may calculate institutional funds differently. You see, so yes, each student needs to do their own FAFSA. Oh, you were pointing. Oh, so helpful.
I already did my FAFSA.
Mm-hmm.
And are you allowed to report anything like CDs or something like that? Is that necessary?
It's not.
It's not.
No, the FAFSA actually has instructions on what's considered an asset. So I would say go back and reread what's considered an asset. Like IRAs, you know, you don't have to report your retirement, you don't have to report. And when you report like stocks and bonds, check up on CDs, not 100% sure, you know, on that one, you may have to, but check the FAFSA instructions and it'll detail which assets you have to report and which ones you don't.
If it says something about financial, any savings.
Yeah, definitely
That's
savings,
savings,
you know.
right?
Yes, it could be considered a savings, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, you definitely want to check the FAFSA. I want to give you your own advice on it, but I'd rather you check the FAFSA.
Yeah, I already submitted.
You can go back and change it, not an issue. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So can I put the CD out, the amount for the CD?
If the FAFSA says you don't have to report it, yes.
Because it took it in.
Well, it takes it whatever you put in. I can put in, I have $1 million in the bank, it doesn't mean I have to have $1 million in the bank. It's going to accept it. So you need to make sure that you read what exactly is considered an asset, and you need to make sure that that asset is properly listed on the FAFSA. We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
With regard to assets,
Mm-hmm.
I have 529 accounts for each of my kids.
Good question.
Does that go on my financial or my son's credit?
If the account is in their name, it goes under their asset. If the account is in your name for them, it goes as your asset.
So they go in my name in custody for.
Yeah, so then it would go under your asset. And then you can check with your 529 plan to see how it's structured. But yeah, you believe it or not, you actually benefit if it's in your name as opposed to theirs. Because if it's in your name, less of it is considered an asset towards college. If it's their name, more of it is considered for the family contribution. You guys are getting way ahead of me. All right? So one more and then I'll move on. Your son fills out his FAFSA with his information and your information. But if you have a daughter, she fills out her FAFSA with her information and your information. Then your other child has to fill out his own FAFSA with your information and his information. Yes. 3 FAFSAs you have to complete. Okay? Yeah, one doesn't go to all 3 schools and all 3 kids. All right? Wow, I didn't know that this slide was going to generate that many questions. Sometimes I'm surprised. But so you understand, for 17-18, you're using 2015 income. It's a big change. It's available now. You can complete the FAFSA now. But I'll tell you this, originally one of the intents, besides fixing that whole income thing, was for you to be able to get your reward letters earlier. This is the first year this has been implemented. I don't think that's going to quite catch up for another 2 or 3 years. They're kind of expecting that admissions folks will move their cycles up too. It's just not going to happen yet. So for you guys, really the only big change is that is available earlier and you're using tax information from your year earlier. That's really it. And it's accurate. Okay, it's supposed to estimate. So, what does the FAFSA do? It collects the family's personal and financial information used to calculate the student's expected family contribution. You're going to see that term again, okay? You file the FAFSA electronically. Here's a copy of their website. I have a screenshot too, fafsa.ed.gov. Students and parents must create what's called a Federal Student Aid ID, FSA ID, all right? And here's where we also get into questions, all right? So, for the mom who has triplets, God bless you, but you create an FSA ID. That's your electronic signature. You can use that FSA ID for each one of your children. So that remains constant. But each one of your children must apply for their own FSA ID. It's an electronic signature. So just like if you were filling out a form with your kids, they sign, you sign. If it was your other kid, they sign, you sign. If it was your other kid, they sign, you sign. Same thing. Your signature or your ID remains constant. Each of them has to have their own. They can use that for their entire life of the FAFSA. Okay? And that FSA ID is also used for other things. If they decide to apply for a loan, there's certain responsibilities that come with a loan. Student loan counseling, a master promissory note, things like that. That FSA ID is also used for that. Again, it's an electronic signature. So if they have to sign a promissory note, they use that FSA ID and it stands in place with their signature. Okay? By doing that FAFSA earlier, and again, using that income from prior year, you are going to be prompted, as you're completing the FAFSA, to use what's called the IRS data retrieval tool. In other words, it's going to ask you, it's going to take you to the IRS site and bring the income data straight from the IRS right into the FAFSA. Okay? If you don't want to use the tool, you have to opt out of that. And then you're going to need your taxes in front of you and you're going to have to fill it all in. So obviously, we always recommend use the IRS data tool. Okay? It's pretty easy. It takes 2 seconds. It links right in, and it brings all the income data in, and you don't have to figure out what goes in this line, what goes in this line, what type of form that I use, things like that. Use the IRS data retrieval tool, and again, you have to opt out if you don't want to use it. So they're kind of forcing you to use the IRS website. Student ID, kind of covered it, but it's the username and password. Gives you a unique benefit of logging into your account while removing all personal identifiable information. It's your professional ID. You'll use it to log into FSA websites like FAFSA, student loan, and more. The parent and student will need their own FSA ID. There's a screenshot there of what the FAFSA screen looks like. You see login, start a new FAFSA. The FSA ID, there's like a little lock that have the arrow to. You would just click on that to create your FSA ID. And I also gave you instructions on how to create an FSA ID. I'm not going to go over these, but at least you know it's in the presentation and you can refer back to the presentation. It's also on the site, obviously. There's a screenshot of the site, but at least it gives you more detailed instruction of the 6 steps you need to do to create it. General eligibility requirements. Student must have a social security number. The The student must be enrolled or accepted for enrollment in an eligible program and pursue a degree, certificate, or other recognized credential. In other words, we only give financial aid to students who are matriculated out of school and they're there for a purpose. If Johnny or Susie are thinking of going to college because one day you said, hey look, you're graduating high school, get a job, join the service, go to college. Johnny says, going to college sounds easier. So I go to college, I take basket weaving classes, golf lessons, fun stuff. Well, guess what? Unless you've declared basket weaving as your major, or golfing as your major, or fun stuff as your major, you're not going to get financial aid. You want to see that you've been admitted there, and you are pursuing an accounting degree, an engineering degree, a criminal justice degree, whatever tickles your fancy. Okay? You're there for a purpose. You can change that degree if you're there and you don't like it, but you need to be there admitted and be there for a purpose. All right? Must be U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. Again, this is the student. The student is the one applying for aid. So if for some reason we have any parents in the room, they're undocumented, you don't have to worry about it. All we're concerned about, these are requirements for the student. And the men must be registered with selective service. All men, when they turn 18, you must be registered with selective service. State, federal grants, loans, scholarships, anything that's federal or state has this as a requirement. All right? It's not the draft. I just want to know men that are eligible, just in case. Yes.
So this eligibility is about being accepted for enrollment. Just to be clear, we're filling it out today. We don't know where we're going to be accepted or enrolled.
Correct. We're not
That's
there.
just the actual payment is going to happen. They're going to go back and make sure you're accepted or enrolled.
Oh, yeah.
Fill out the application plan, your family contribution way before you're.
Absolutely. Yeah, right now you're applying. The college is the one who's going to determine.
Anyone does not say I can't apply for this, I'm not accepted somewhere.
Correct. And actually, all right, so I kind of go over that in this slide a little bit, but I understand your question. Basically, she's saying, is this going to stop you from paying out your FAFSA? No, it doesn't. Okay? I'm going to get into that more in the next slide after this. So basically, what does the FAFSA do? Key components. Collects the student's demographic information, collects the student's income and asset information. It's going to ask about 15 questions to determine whose information goes on the FAFSA, whether it's just the student's information, whether the student and the parent information. There's a thing called dependent or independent status. It's going to ask for parent demographical information, again, make sure we validate who the parents are. It's going to ask for household size, number in college. These are all factors that go into the formula in making that determination of that expected family contribution and if the student qualifies for aid, how much, whether it's again grants, loans, and scholarships. If you're on a federal means tested benefit, SSI, SNAP, whatever, you indicate that because the formula does treat you differently. Okay, it gives you more allowances. College choice, and this is where I'll kind of stop to address your question a little bit. Okay, so the FAFSA. The FAFSA allows you to put 10 colleges on your first submission. You put 10 colleges, you can submit the FAFSA. You can wait till it's processed. It takes about 48, 72 hours for it to be processed. And once it's processed, you can log back into your FAFSA. You can delete those 10 colleges. You can put 10 more and resubmit it. And you can wait again. And you can go back into your FAFSA. And you can delete those 10. And you can put 10 more. And you can wait again. You get my drift, right? You don't have to have applied to these schools, been admitted, accepted, paid deposits, nothing. These colleges could be just thoughts in your mind. University of Hawaii. I'm gonna put University of Hawaii on my FAFSA. I think it would be cool to go to University of Hawaii. Okay, so I put it on there. What it does is, it gives those colleges or universities that you put in there access to your data. So that once you apply, and you've been admitted, and they've determined this kid is interested in coming here, they can pull that data down from the cloud, Coffee Cloud, and we prepare your aid package for you. So completing the FAFSA now and putting those colleges should not stop you because, oh my God, I haven't applied. What do I do? You don't have to worry about that. Okay? And again, you can do 50 copies if you want. All right? Once submitted, there's an additional step for New Jersey residents. Not New Jersey residents only, but for New Jersey residents, because other states do it. But what happens is, when you submit your FAFSA, everybody thinks they're done. Oh, great, groovy, done. State of New Jersey, for consideration, you have to do additional questions. So there's a link, I'm going to show you. It's a slide that you need to, you're going to see, you need to click on to be considered for state aid. So there's additional questions. If you missed that for some reason, which a lot of people do, when they submit their FAFSA, because they're just glad that it's submitted, you know, and exit out of their browser, the state will remind you. We'll send emails to your sons and daughters saying, hey, we got your FAFSA, but it's still incomplete. Please come to our website and answer some more questions, okay? So we can make a determination whether you can qualify for state aid. Common mistakes on the FAFSA. Student's name as it appears on the Social Security card, Social Security number, and date of birth. This is a data match. One of the wonderful things that FAFSA does is it goes to the federal government and it starts going through data matches. Okay? So one of the first things they do is they check to make sure that the person applying under that Social Security is who they are. All right? We've had many cases. It's an identity theft protection. We've had many cases where a kid applies, gets a bounce back. Sometimes it's something as silly as, my formal name is, you know, William Paul Johnson. I go by Willie. So I put Willie Johnson. Well, guess what? It's a computer. It goes to Social Security and it says this Social Security does not belong to Willie Johnson. It belongs to William Johnson. Boom, it rejects it. Okay? That's kind of the simple one and the most often common example. But we also have the examples where a student puts it in, it bounces back and says, somebody's using your Social Security number and ID. And they borrowed student loans on them. And we had this case of a student whose uncle stole his identity when he was 7 and used it for a myriad of things. So it's protecting your sons and daughters. It's validating that data. Not only that they are who they are, but also in case somebody else is using their information so they can act on it. Okay? Another thing it does, believe it or not, is it checks for citizenship status with Homeland Security. It checks the National Student Loan Data System, make sure you don't owe a refund, overpayment on a grant, defaulted on a loan, check selective service for the men. So it does a lot of things to validate that person's identity and information. Parent section versus student section, duplicating income. This is another common mistake. The student is filling out the FAFSA, they're confused, they don't know. Mom and dad made $80,000 last year. When they get to the income section, they put that in. They continue filling out the FAFSA, starts asking them for income information again. They're like, oh, okay. They put it in. They don't realize is that they put that they earned $80,000 and mom and dad earned $80,000. So as you can imagine, the results on the FAFSA are going to be very different than a household income of $80,000 or a household income of $160,000. Okay? And sometimes we don't pick up this error. You see? So be very careful. Student section is for students, parent section is for parents. Number of people in the household. We're usually looking for immediate family. If you had Aunt Sue, Uncle Bob, and 2 cousins live with you last year because they fell through hard times, lost their house, lost their job, whatever, and you put a household of 10, be prepared to be questioned. Each school may have their own household policy and who they accept as part of the household. Usually we're looking for mom and dad, brothers and sisters, maybe grandma and grandpa that were claimed under mom and dad's income tax return. Okay? Above that, it starts getting sketchy and a lot. Because obviously we know the more people in the household, the more mouths to feed, the more potential for eligibility. Okay? Divorced remarried household, step-parent information is required. We also get this too where I live with mom, she's my custodial parent, she remarried, I have a stepdad now in the house. Stepdad's information or stepmom's information must go on the FAFSA, okay? Even if stepdad has nothing to do with you, doesn't want to have anything to do with you, has his own kids from his first marriage, does not matter. Federal government requires that information. Again, I often missed one and again skipping that general question because after all those fancy data matches, they still can't figure out their feet. Yes, ma'am.
The student income section, if you're filling out for 2015 and your student did not have income in 2015, then it's 0.
Very good. Absolutely. It's 2015 income information. Just like if in 2015 you earned $30,000 and then in 2016 you earned $150,000, doesn't matter. You use 2015 income information because next year it'll ask you for 2016. Catches up with you eventually. And vice versa, it goes down, well, you get the benefit of it. Okay? So, how to be considered for state aid. So again, I said there's going to be additional state aid questions. You complete the FAFSA. September 15th is their deadline date, so you still have plenty of time, September 15th of next year. Be sure to list New Jersey College and University as your first choice. Ignore that. I need to take that out. They got rid of that. Once you submit the FAFSA, New Jersey residents will be given an option to link to the Higher Education Assistance website. If the questions are unanswered, student may log into njgrants.org to complete the additional questions for the state. HESA will notify you of the status of your state grant application. So again, you have an additional step to take with the state, and here's what the confirmation page on the FAFSA looks like. So, 16, 17, it gives you a Pell Grant estimate on the bottom right, direct loan estimate, or may qualifying loans, the family contribution, which is what we use, and then there's that optional feature, starting your state application. Folks, we're talking about now maybe an additional 5 to 9 questions. So it's not a lot of extra questions, but you definitely want consideration for as many types of programs and grants that you may be eligible for, so please don't forget to do this. Okay? And again, if you miss it, you will be notified by them via email, the email that you used on the website. All right, section 1 we covered different aid programs, section 2 the applications, section 3 the aid package. Okay? You apply for aid, all right? You apply for admissions to these schools, you're beginning to get acceptance letters, okay? So based on that is then what we begin to build aid packages with. So, what's the first thing you do? Your son and daughter's been accepted. Congrats. We say, all right, we need to start preparing an aid package for the student. We bring in the FAFSA data. So the first thing we do is we establish what's called a cost of attendance. How much does it cost to go to that school for the year? And these are some of the factors we look at. Obviously, tuition fees, room and board, books, supplies, equipment, transportation, loan fees if they're borrowing. We always recommend that our students, their junior year, do a study abroad year. So when that time comes, when they need to increase the budget, if you want to go to Barcelona, Spain, or I don't know, Germany, or Turkey, or Italy, or wherever it is that you want to go, there may be additional costs involved with that. Other unexpected educational costs. I have daycare expenses, I have a disabled child I got to take care of, and I have expenses for that. So those are things that we'll look at. We'll also determine the kind of student. Whether the student is a career student, whether the student is going to be a residential student, whether the student is independent, whether they're dependent, whether they're a graduate student, an undergraduate student, whether they're an engineer. Maybe engineering has additional costs. Maybe a nursing student has additional costs because of uniforms. So we're going to look at all those factors, and we establish that cost of attendance. How much does it cost? Then we look at the FAFSA. We look at the expected family contribution. Determined by a federal formula, calculates need using information you supplied on the FAFSA. EHS Financial Aid are guidelines used to determine the aid package. Okay, so we know how much it costs. And then we get the results from the FAFSA that tell us how much can the family contribute. All right? So we give you a sample here. Family lives in New Jersey. Married parents, both age 52. Household size of 4, the one child going to college. The 2012 adjusted gross income, $120,000. And about $20,000 in assets. Student income and assets are zero, so the student did not work that year. They have no assets. Okay? So the federal government then tells me that family can contribute $20,830 per year to the student's cost of education. Okay? Then we establish financial need. See the types of colleges at the top. You see the cost of attendance, COA, EFC, estimated family contribution, and then you see financial need. All right? Community college is a little deceiving here. Obviously, we know community college does not cost $13,300 a year, but in developing that budget, even though we know community college might be close to about $5,000 a year, the community college still needs to take into account the fact that the student living at your house, that they're eating your food, that they're using your light, your water, that there's transportation costs. So again, that's what that budget, that cost of attendance is based on. State College University a little easier because in this case we say it's a student that resides there. There's a meal plan involved, there are dorm fees, books, things like that. And private college university, again, the privates are going to be a little bit more expensive. All right, so we have those costs established. The EFC is the constant. That remained constant, whether the student is studying here in New Jersey or Alabama or Mississippi or Hawaii, wherever they want to go. That's the constant. That's the federal formula. Okay. What changes are those costs of attendance based on the institution, the state, the other factors. Okay. And then there's financial need. So immediately we see that the student going to community college has no need because that family, based on the federal formula, can contribute more per year than it costs for that student to go to community college. So in essence, what it means is the community college has no responsibility to find you financial aid. You have no need. They may send you a letter saying, thanks for applying, your child has no need. If you want to talk about other financial aid options, come visit us. Okay? Thank you very much. State College University, 25,561 to go there. EFC or family contribution 20,830. Their need is 4731. Therefore, in that situation, which that's what applies to me, my responsibility is to at least find you $4,731 in financial aid. That $4,731 could be a loan, a grant, a scholarship. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're one of those merit candidates and need candidates and you get a $10,000 scholarship in my school, I'm not going to give it to you. Of course I'm going to give it to you. But now not only have I met that 4731, but I've also started eating into your contribution. So that's a good thing. You see? The private college university gets a little bit more dicey. All right? That's why usually private colleges and universities get bigger granted scholarships because they realize that families, for the most part, have bigger gaps to fill. Now, unfortunately, what sometimes happens is, even in my institution, well, 4731 doesn't happen in my institution, I can always find my money. But let's say that gap was a little bigger. Say it was a $15,000 gap. And I look and I look and I look and I just can't find any money or enough money to fulfill the $15,000 gap. Okay? That's when then I say, look, I can only find 10. Here's what you're getting. And then it's up to you to come in and say, oh, first of all, I couldn't even contribute. The federal government told me I had to contribute, let alone I'm still $5,000 shy because you can only find $10,000 for me. And again, that's when we then would sit down, we'd sit with one of the associate directors, the counselors, whoever they are at the schools, and then they look at your file and go, let's start looking at all those other options that we talked about at the very beginning. Student loan, parent loan, line of credit, the payment plans, savings, things like that. Okay? So that's basically how the structure of the aid package works. And then you start receiving the award letters from the different schools. All right? Award letters, the format may vary by institution. So keep that in mind. All right? It's available in hard copy or online. Some schools still do the old-fashioned way. You get it by mail. You get your award letter and you can start comparing it. What we do and what a lot of schools are going towards is they may send you some kind of notification your award letter is available, but you need to log into your portal to view it. You know, most students nowadays get a portal, they can see all their admission stuff through there, they can see their financial aid stuff through there. If we need more information from you, everything's through email and we'll put it on the portal. Okay? It's available after the FAFSA is filed and the student is accepted. So again, this is where we get back to, you can put those 50 schools. Because guess what? I am not going to go through all that rigmarole of budget, need, cost of attendance, developing a package. If your son or daughter hasn't applied or been accepted at my school, I'm only going to do it for those that have applied and been accepted. Okay? So that's when you don't have to worry about how many colleges you put, because only after you've completed that FAFSA and accepted will the schools begin to download that data and prepare those report packages for you. All right, so the award letter. So you begin to get these now. Another thing that you need to be careful of is, for an example, I don't have it on the slide. You know, some schools may say, oh, we've covered the whole lot. But they may be packaging you with a parent loan, they may be packaging you with a loan from a private lender, they may include a payment plan in there. So you look and you're like, oh, it costs $40,000 to go there, and they've given us $40,000 in aid. The problems are solved, you're going there. Another school may say, no, we're only going to package you with grants that you qualify for, work study, and maybe a federal Stafford loan. We're not going to package parent loans, private loans, payment plans, things like that. So you look at another aid package and you're like, wow, this one has a $20,000 gap. You know, read the fine details, the fine print on all those letters. Okay, make sure that at one school the aid package doesn't look better than the other one, but then one school is loading you up in loans, while the other school is not. Okay. So in other words, don't be afraid to ask questions when you get those award letters. If you have any doubts, any confusion, reach out to the aid office and go, I just want to understand this, you know, so I'm clear. This $20,000 loan you're putting in here, and you're reading everything, but the other school didn't put a $20,000 loan. What does it mean? And then boom, let them explain it to you. Oh, that's a parent loan, and we expect all parents to borrow on behalf of the student. While the other school may say, no, no, no. We award everything to the student, the parent wants to contribute. Well, they have to understand there's still a $20,000 gap, and then it's up to them to determine how they're going to fulfill that $20,000 gap. You see? So that's why the award letters kind of get a little confusing. Okay, and in some cases you may be comparing apples to oranges. Now, one thing that did happen a couple of years back was the federal government developed what's called a shopping sheet. All right? The only problem is they made this voluntary for schools. Some schools adopted it, some schools did not. The essence of this was to standardize award letters. So when you're looking at college A and college B, you were looking at the same info, and then you could truly make a determination as to how much you were going to have to pay out of pocket, or you still had left over, or you had a gap for. Okay? But like I said, it's voluntary. So TCNJ uses it. I like it. It's very transparent. It breaks it down very nicely. I'm giving you another slide where I break all the factors down. But basically, it standardizes the award letters and makes it easier to comparison shop. It shows you how much each school will cost in a year. Financial aid options to pay that cost with clear differentiations between grants and scholarships. The net cost after grants and scholarships. Information comparing default rates, graduation rates, median debt levels, which you see on the right. I know it's a little hard to see, but you'll see on the top, you see graduation rate under the capping down. You'll see the loan default rate, you see the median that borrowers have to pay back, and then the potential monthly payment for the federal student loans. Again, I like it because it breaks it down. It tells you this is how much it's going to cost to go to that school. This is what you're going to get in grants and scholarships. This is what the net cost is after grants and scholarships. These are work study options. These may be loan options. This is what we expect the parent to pay out of pocket. Okay. Also, folks, I'm going to tell you a little bit something about that right-hand side. Graduation rates. My four-year graduation rate at TCNJ is 74, almost 75%. My six-year graduation rate is 86%. Okay. We are up there with Princeton. I think Princeton's the only one in New Jersey that's higher than us. And we are up there nationally with other state institutions. All right? If you're looking at graduation rates in other schools, colleges, universities, and you can't find the graduation rate, you need to be weary of that school. Okay? I don't know, I went to Rutgers. I don't know if you guys ever experienced freshman year, those of you that went to college, you're sitting there and you say, look to the person on the right. That person's not going to be here when you graduate. Well, guess what? That's terrible. That means their graduation rate is 50%. That means when your sons and daughters go, that they have a 50% chance of graduating from that school. Horrible in my eyes. Okay. Ours is 86, and retention is 94%. Because naturally we have students that transfer out. They're not happy with TCNJ, finance issues, personal issues, whatever. So you're always going to have that. But you want to make sure that when you're looking at those colleges for your sons and daughters, you are looking at the graduation rates. You want to guarantee that level of success. Okay? Another thing you want to look at is their loan default rate. That means students who borrowed at that school, when they graduate, are they able to repay back their loans? Okay? My loan default rate is 1.4%. Nationally, for public institutions, it's about 13%. All right? That means that when my engineers graduate, not only do they find jobs, but they find high-paying jobs. And I don't know if you saw the article on NewJersey.com, I think about a week ago, it had 25 colleges in New Jersey and what their median salaries were. Put that out on NewJersey.com. We were fourth. Like Princeton, NJIT, and Stevens, I think. And that's because Stevens and NJIT, obviously, they're tech institutions, they're going to have higher salaries, okay? Another thing you need to look at. If you have a high percentage of students that are defaulting on their student loans, when they graduate, they can't pay back their basic debt, okay? And finally, their median borrowing, that dollar sign. How much are students borrowing to get that degree? And how much is their monthly repayment? So I'm averaging about $22,000 for a 4-year education for federal loans, okay? And believe it or not, New Jersey's a little high, all right? But that's what you want to look at. You know, first of all, you know what it means to it, and how much are they borrowing? Are they going to be Shanghai in student loans forever? And is this monthly payment that they're paying going to be comfortable enough where they can still do other things in life, like buy a car, a condo, go on vacations, and things like that, okay? So kind of more things that you need to be looking at. When we provide an award letter, we provide a standard award letter, and we also provide a shopping sheet. So you want to look at those award letters carefully, but you also want to look and see if your college or university has a shopping sheet, so then you can kind of do comparison shopping, and you know it's apples to apples, okay? But this is probably one of the most, you think filling out the FAFSA and applying and all that is confusing. This is going to probably be one of the most confusing ones when you are receiving those award letters and you're sitting at your dinner table and now you're really talking about money and whether you can afford to go there and how much you're getting. And your son and daughter is set on one school, but that costs more than this school that's giving them a better aid package. And now you got to convince him or her, well, mom and dad are going to get a better deal over here. Or you're going to get a better deal over here. Okay? So those are very personal conversations. All right? These are all things that hopefully will help you in that decision. You have the breakdown again. The presentation is going to be on the site, so you can look at it in more detail. Other information. Financial aid timeline. Now this is really in flux right now with this whole prior and applying earlier and all that. But we put this up there just so you can be aware. So between October and March, you're completing the college search, you're applying for admissions, you're completing that FAFSA, you're completing the CSS profile, if applicable. Between December and April, the acceptance notices are being sent, whether it's early decision or general admit. Award letters are being sent. So the reason that we kind of put this one up here, right? Put this one up there is because if you see that March is rolling around, maybe beginning of April, decision day is usually May 1st, most for your colleges and universities. Community colleges and proprietaries have rolling admissions, so they're kind of out of the norm on this timeline. But decision time is usually May 1st. If April's rolling around and you haven't gotten an award letter from the school that you've been admitted to, you need to be picking up the phone and you need to be calling that school. Did they not get your FAFSA data? Was your Social Security not on the Common App for that school and they couldn't match it? The Social Security is what they use to match. You see? Did it get lost in the mail? Did you not get the email? Did it go to a different email address? Whatever. But you need to be reaching out to them and say, hey, could you tell me when you're sending award letters? Or look on their website and go, when are you sending award letters? Oh, March 1st. You're like, it's March 15th, I haven't gotten mine. You need to call them up and see what's going on, what's wrong. All right? June, July, fall semester term bills are sent, and then before beginning new classes, semester bills will be due. Avoid being charged a fee to file the FAFSA. I mean, this has changed a little bit for the last 10 years. I think it stopped like last year. The last 10 years, there was a very enterprising individual who bought FAFSA.com, the domain. When you go fill out your FAFSA, you go to FAFSA.gov. All right? So what he did was he established FAFSA.com and he made it look like the FAFSA site. So families go to FAFSA.com, they start filling out their FAFSA. Then at the end of the FAFSA it says, okay, please give us your credit card information so you can pay the $89.99 so we can submit the FAFSA on your behalf. So now you've given a complete strange entity all your social security and income information and personal information about your household for the last year. Well, some families were so frustrated, they're like, I just spent an hour and a half filling this thing out. Take my $90, okay? So the federal government got wind of that, and they both remain out from the guy. But, so you don't have to worry about that at least. But the reason I say that is just be careful of an unscrupulous site. Make sure you go to FAFSA.gov. Maybe you have the website here on the presentation, so don't go anywhere else. All right, and it is free. Completing the FAFSA is free. If you follow FAFSA on the web, there's the site. Contact the financial aid office or HESA, which is the entity that prepares this presentation for me. They're our state entity also, if you need help in completing the FAFSA. All right. Where you go from here, you review those admissions and financial aid materials and deadlines from each school which you're applying. You meet those application deadlines. You've probably seen this now 3 times in the presentation, so it should stand out. It's important. Please see us referral about complete the FAFSA and any other application materials required by the school or your state agency. Again, make sure you check the websites to see if there's other additional forms that you need to complete when you're doing all this research. Other resources, outside scholarship, campus administrative payment plans, campus employment, specialized campus opportunities. And here's where I'll stop. One of the things you need to be careful of is the schools that are trying to front load aid or scholarships or load you up with a lot of loans freshman year to try and get your sons and daughters in, but then there's no 4-year plan involved in there. Sometimes it's a 5-year journey or a 6-year journey, okay? So you need to be careful of that. The last thing you want is to sign up for loans, or get front loaded on scholarships, or not read the fine print, and then find out from sophomore year or junior year, you can no longer afford to send your son or daughter there, okay? So this is a 4-year journey, folks. So for example, when a college is giving you a merit or a need-based scholarship, usually they're going to send out a contract. And they're going to give you the conditions of that scholarship, okay? They're going to tell you what the amount is per year. They're going to tell you what the academic requirements are for that scholarship. So for example, at TCNJ, what we do is we need to maintain a 3.0 GPA if you receive a merit-based scholarship. You need to complete a certain number of credits or units, as we call them at TCNJ every year. But then what we also do is we divide our scholarship evenly over the 4 years. So if you receive a $40,000 scholarship, we're going to give you 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. What you need to be careful of is the school that's saying, I'm going to give you a $40,000 scholarship, and I'm going to give you $20,000 your freshman year, $10,000 your sophomore year, $5,000 your junior, and $5,000 your senior. Okay? So again, now you receive this award letter. You read the fine print, whatever. You're like, everything's hunky-dory freshman year. And then, sophomore year, like, we gotta come up with an extra 10 G's. Or junior or senior year, an extra 15 G's. Okay? Yes, sir. Well, the advantage is they're gonna get you to come in. They fulfill their enrollment numbers that year. And those entities may not be concerned about their graduation rate or their 4-year retention rate. We are. That's why you want to be looking for that graduation rate. You see? So again, you need to be careful. Read those award letters well. Also, another thing, so when we are meeting with our families and planning, we're planning for 4 years. And if we're having an issue for freshman year, it may be time to have that conversation and say to that family, perhaps this is not a good choice for you at this point. Maybe you need to go to community college first, then transfer in as a junior. Or maybe you need to defer your admissions for a year. Sometimes schools will let you defer admissions for a year. While you sort things out, maybe go to community college, get the finances in order, and then come in, your second year. Okay, so sometimes you need to explore all those options, in other words. Okay? Another thing that a lot of people don't realize or don't think about or don't know, we know, and we'll offer it is, for example, let's say the residential advisor opportunities, okay? I think it's a great option. Usually residential advisors are folks, for those of you that didn't go to college, they'll be employed in a dorm, they'll be responsible for either a floor or multiple floors, and as part of their job duties, they'll get a free dorm room. And in some cases, like what we do is we give them a free dorm room and then they'll get a stipend, on top of that. And the stipend usually is enough to maybe cover a middle of the line meal plan, okay? So for example, those opportunities are not available to sophomores. Usually it's more juniors and seniors who take those opportunities. But look, Right now, my room and board, my dorm fee is about $8,600 for the year, and my meal plan is about $3,000 for the year. So to automatically be able to go to your mom and dad and say, guess what, I got a residential advisor opportunity, and now you don't have to worry about $11,000 of my college tuition bill. It's a huge thing, okay? Again, not available until later on. Some students may never inquire about it or care about it, but at least we know we have it as a back pocket item to offer to families and say, you know, you're having an issue, have you thought about applying for an RA opportunity or a TA opportunity or a CA opportunity, you know, or perhaps a student ambassador opportunity, you know, on campus, something, internship, co-op, something that's going to help the family in meeting that educational cost for their sophomore, junior, or senior, okay? Again, just more things that you need to be thinking about. Probably get 500 of the things I just gave you. Other resources. ESA has a really nice Planning for College page. I've given you the website up there. There's different tabs. There used to be a time when we used to come to these presentations, and you in high school is very nice that they actually give you a folder with a lot of useful materials. A lot of other high schools don't do that. They do a gazillion of these things, okay? But there used to be a time when we used to come in with a cart with boxes and have all these things to give out. You know, half the time people didn't read half of it. Take it home and they would go in the circular file cabinet, okay? So now everything's online, so if you want, you can always go to this website and you can click through those tabs. And there's a lot of good resources there, from, you know, financial aid planning nights to how to apply for college and preparing, or there's a college cost calculator, which again, most colleges have it, but they also have one. Just to get more resources for you if you want to do that research and you want to kind of hunt it a little further, okay? Also, private scholarship search, all right? I've given you some reputable websites here if you want to look for private scholarships. I like the FastWeb one. It's a good one. The College Board one is pretty good too. But sometimes, again, kind of thinking outside the box is, you know, perhaps looking at other resources like, you know, going to your parent's employer. All right, when my uncle, I remember years back, when my cousin was ready to go to college, my uncle was working for AT&T, and he went to AT&T, and he went to the HR office, and he goes, look, you know, my son's going to college, do you offer him, you know, scholarships? And at the time, they were like, yeah, actually, we do, you know, and here's what you got to do to apply for it, and you got a scholarship. I think it was something like $500. But still, if somebody wants to give me $500, I'm not going to say no. So sometimes, sources are a little bit unconventional, out of the ordinary. There's nothing wrong with asking. There's nothing wrong with going to your church, or going to the Boy Scout troop that your son belongs to, or going to Knights of Columbus that you belong to, you know, and saying, do you have any scholarships that you give out, you know, to children of members or, you know, employers or whatever? And you never know when they're going to say yes. And again, the worst thing that could happen is they say, actually, we don't, and they say, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Scholarships have to be reported to the colleges and universities, or?
Yes. If your sons and daughters are eligible for a private scholarship or private outside scholarship, by law you are required to report that to the college. Because what happens is that goes into, a college can never go over that cost of attendance that they've established. So if they say it costs $30,000 to go there, financial aid that they receive, which includes loans, scholarships, can never exceed that $30,000. So yes, even if the check goes to you directly and you cash it and use that $500 for books, you're still required to let the college know so that they can put it as a placeholder towards that cost of attendance, okay? In very few cases, it's nothing you have to worry about. In very few cases, does a student get $40,000 in scholarships for a $30,000 cost of attendance? And if that happens, that's a really good problem to have, you know? And usually what we would do in those cases, if that was the case, we would tell the student, well, look, you know, you're getting $40,000 in scholarships and it only costs $30,000 to go here. Why do you call that scholarship source? And maybe they can give that to you junior year, when maybe you might be a little short, you know, because tuition's gone up or cost of attendance that's gone up. So we'll work with the student and the family, but the bottom line is, yes, you are required to let the school know about that private scholarship.
And so it's considered, so when you talked earlier about the family contribution,
Mm-hmm.
that's added to the, is it taken away from family?
No, all it does is it may help defray that family contribution. You know, so again, you know, when I was looking at that slide with where I'm supposed to meet 4731, well, obviously, if you're getting a $10,000 scholarship, again, we've met the 4731 and we've eaten into your family contribution. Not like it's added or you're penalized for it. It's a benefit to you that you're receiving those funds. Okay. Oh, and that's it. Thank you. Does anyone? Thank you. So what I'll do is I'll open it to general questions if you have. And then if not, you know, I'll hang out a little bit afterwards, although I'm hoping that you ask most of your questions now, because sometimes I get a long line and it's questions that people would have benefited from hearing. So again, don't be afraid to ask questions. Yes, ma'am. And if you're leaving, if you could keep it down so we can hear the person asking the question.
Okay, my son was a big, hasn't seen his father.
Okay.
But dad has 529. So why?
Okay.
I applied for FAFSA. I have to declare the amount of money that his dad has.
You do not. No. You are the custodial parent, only your income information goes on there. Now, if your son applies to a school that requires a CSS profile and they require that non-custodial profile, in that case you would. But the chances are very minimal of that. But at least on the FAFSA, you do not have to worry about that. Yes, ma'am.
529 again. I have two 529 accounts, one for each of my children. Do I have to declare both of them on FAFSA?
You do. Yep, you do. And then a little caveat about 529s. The state of New Jersey, say you have a $50,000 529, you're required to report it on the FAFSA. Now the state of New Jersey does a very nice thing. The first $25,000 with 529, they will forgive, as long as you notify them. So if you have 50,000, you still have to put the 50,000 there. If you tell them it's a 529 plan, that where that 50,000 is coming from, then they'll eliminate 25,000 of it, so that, you know, it helps in terms of calculating that family contribution. Okay, not penalized as much, which is a very nice thing. I can barely hear you. You said, how much does it cost to come to my school? TCNJ right now, for the year, tuition, fees, room, board, books, is about $27,000 per year. Yes? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as long as you report it, it doesn't mean you have to tap into it. It's an asset. You know, and there's different schools of thoughts on that. I've had some families that are like, and again, folks, remember this. You know, when you're putting down assets, right now the federal government only looks at about 5 to 7% of that asset on the parent side towards the contribution. So, you know, if you have a $100,000 asset, then they're only looking at about $5,000 to $7,000. So it's not this big deal, you know. So on the student side, it's a little bit heavier. Student side, it could be between, I believe it's 12 to 20% of that asset. So that's why it's always better to have it on the parent side, because it's less of a contribution. So again, unless you're talking significant amounts, that 529 may not, or whatever other assets you have, may not make that much of an impact towards the family contribution. So getting back to what I was originally going to say is, you know, some folks decide, you know what, I'm just going to spend it all first year, so that when I fill out my FAFSA next year, I have hardly anything in there, and then that's not being looked at a contribution. But by all means, some families just want to spread it out over the 4 years, which is fine. The asset is decreasing, therefore the contribution is decreasing there. But what you want to do is absolutely fine. You know, you report it, you don't have to touch it. When you really need it, then you tap into it.
Does it work on that anymore, or does it fight you if you hold on to that and you try to use it for the more expensive?
Again, like I said, unless it's a significant amount, the bite is really not that bad. So, you know, and again, that's a very personal decision. You know, to either hold it, spread it out, or spend it all at once. That's correct. See, that's another factor you have to look at. That's why those would be conversations that if you're down to that nitty-gritty, the way we work at a TCNJ is you make appointments. You know, in some schools, you can't make appointments. You know, in some schools, it's walking to go see somebody. We do ours by appointment because we want you to sit down with the associate director and have them look at the file holistically and go, all right, let's talk. How much do you have? What, what's that amount? And they know all these the right questions to ask, and they have those back pocket items to go, I think in your situation you should spend it that first year. So, but again, it's a very individualized conversation. Yes, sir.
You said it was not in the parents' name, that should be a situation.
It is, because again, less of the contribution is counted. Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. When it comes to asking your parent employer for scholarships, could it be a previous employer?
If the previous employer is willing to do it, absolutely. You could ask 7-Eleven down the street for a scholarship, whether they want to give it to you, that's another thing. But yeah, absolutely. It could be a previous employer. I think somebody else has their hand up. Yes. Mm-hmm.
My question is for state aid. You said while the child is in the school, you can start making a payment.
Mm-hmm. For the loan, for the state loan. Mm-hmm.
What is the benefit of paying down interest? Because I was thinking for making payments on the principal, because the next year, if I pay down interest, I'm gonna get, interest anyway.
So here's what happens. So the New Jersey loan program, what they'll do is they'll offer you different options. They'll say, okay, I'll tell you what, you want to borrow $20,000, you can borrow $20,000. I'll lend you that $20,000 at 4% if you begin to repay back that loan 60 days later. They may say, well, I'll let you borrow that $20,000 at 8% if you don't want to pay anything until you graduate. And then there's in-betweens. They may say, well, I'll give you that loan at 5% if you at least want to be paying the interest while they're in school. Or I might give you that loan at X% if you want to pay the principal while you're in school and not the interest. So you see it's just different options for you to say, well, can I begin to repay the loan now? Can I just forget about it until we're done? Can I just pay interest now? Can I pay a little bit of the interest and principal now? So it's whatever meets your household needs and your cash flow. They'll have, and obviously they'll base their interest rate on it. You see, on the federal loan program, the subsidized one, no worries. The student doesn't have to pay the principal or the interest. On the unsubsidized, they don't have to worry about the principal either. The interest begins to accrue. But again, depending on the household finances and the cash flow of that student, the student may say, look, even though my quarterly payment is $90, even $90 is a stretch for me. So let that interest capitalize while I'm in school. I'll worry about it when I graduate and get a good paying job. I usually would recommend capitalizing, and that's what, again, that personal family conversation with the associate would say, you know what, sacrifice to make that quarterly payment of $60 and $90 on interest, because the last thing you want to do is when they graduate pay interest on top of interest, you see. But again, it depends on which option works for you and what the household finances are when the student is entering college.
If the 529 is in the student state, you have you transfer that?
I believe not, no.
Stop.
Yeah, and that, you can confirm that with your financial planner, but no, if I'm correct, you're stuck. Yeah. Yes.
So what if you have your EMC figured out?
Okay.
And what if you really can't pay that? Will schools try to help bridge that gap? Like will they try to offer loan possibilities, or will they just go up to that amount, say $2,000?
It really depends on the school. I can tell you in our case, we would not. We would just find the difference. And then it would be up to the parent to step up and say, well, look, I'm having problems with the 2030 that the formula is telling me. And then again, it becomes a one-on-one conversation to say, well, how much were you ready to contribute? 10,000 per year? All right. So now we've made that gap even a little smaller. Let's talk about what options we have for the other $10,830 that's remaining. You see? So again, some schools may, and some schools may just front load you immediately and just say, you know what, we're gonna give them $47.31 in this, and we're giving them a $20,000 loan over here. And again, that's where you may say, oh, they're covering everything. No, they're giving you loans to cover everything, You know, and then at that point, you could even say, no, you know what, I don't want to borrow that much. I was already ready to pay $10,000 per year, so I'll only borrow 10. You see? But again, you know, it depends on the institution, and the determining factor is going to be when you get that award letter from that school. I think there was another one over here. Oh, over here.
Okay, do you still have something for OPF?
OPF? Never heard of
Am
that.
I saying it wrong?
EOF?
EOS, sorry.
Yes.
EOS.
Educational Opportunity Fund is a state program. You still need to do your FAFSA, you know, to apply. The information gets sent to the state. What it is for families who come from economically and academically disadvantaged backgrounds. So there's stricter income requirements. It's 200% of the poverty line. You can apply for that program separately through the institution, and then the EOF office at that institution will ask for more documentation about your FAFSA to determine if your son and daughter would qualify for that program. So it's a separate step from the FAFSA, but the FAFSA begins the process. Yes, absolutely, and it's got to be historical poverty. So they want to see that it's not that you had a really bad year and you only made 40,000 this year, but in previous years you're going to get 80, you know, but you're not getting bonuses or whatever. So yeah, there's an additional step involved, but we do have it.
Yeah, because when I did my FAFSA, it shows that the bill went to such and such, and it shows like a Stafford loan.
That's correct.
And then on the side, it shows this is how much, like whatever school that we decided to put my daughter in.
Okay.
This is how much that I would have to pay out of pocket
Mhm.
to do that.
Mhm.
So it shows like two different amounts.
Correct, but remember that's only for federal programs that you're getting. That information is being sent to the state, and the state's going to determine eligibility for state programs. You see, the college is going to determine eligibility for college programs. So all those things will come together when you get the award letter.
Okay.
What you're getting are samples from the federal programs. Okay, that's just what the FAFSA covers on that initial receiver snapshot. Okay. All right, I think that's it. Get out of here.
Right, thank you.
Have a great evening. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Mr.
Welcome.
Hussein.